How to get in and out of feet in straps. I'm going to put some medium springs on. So in this instance, it will be a red and a green. So I'm going to take everything off from there. Now, feet in straps, it's exactly the same way as you would do when you're lying down on the reformer. So you want to move your clients close to the football, getting them to shuffle along. So the skin nearly touches, or it does touch. They're not too far back on the platform either. Obviously, they know that their head is heading there. They're going to be looking up to the ceiling. You can do all fancy, gentle roll downs, reaching, lying, and whatever. But the basics of it are just a nice little roll. The legs are going to go up and over the bar to begin with, and we can check in where we are with the shoulder blocks. The feet are going to go onto the bar, and we're going to press the legs out just a little bit. Just so that you can help get them into position and getting their spines nice and flat. The straps are always next to their ears, so I would just get them to grab the straps. And before I do anything, I'm going to show them the correlation between the legs and the straps. So if I press the legs, the straps get longer and looser. If I bend the legs, the straps get shorter and tighter. And we call this like a little ringing the bell action. So we just get them to feel what it's like first before we ask them to do anything at all. So they can work that out. So then we can go, right, the foot, you're going to press so you've got a long bit of strap. You don't necessarily have to have a straight leg, but I prefer to. I then put one foot in that strap. I'm going to press this leg out until I feel tension in the strap. I'm not trying to straighten it because a straight leg is not as strong as this. I then use my two hands, so I'm going to hold this back hand as an anchor. I'm going to grab a hold of the other hand, and I like to call it like hooking a duck, hook a duck. And I'm going to pop the other foot into the strap, and then we are in position. I've moved a little bit close to the shoulder block, so I'm just going to shuffle down, maybe finding the edge of the carriage and using that to help me. Once we have the clients in feet and straps, we're just going to move through a few of the easier type movements where they get used to having their feet in straps. So I want to say to my clients, we're going to press our spines down flat onto the reformer carriage. We know this as imprint. They might not. Now we want to check where the cheeks are, making sure that the cheeks are actually down on the carriage. If you have a client who's looking particularly uncomfortable in the straps, there's a couple of reasons for this. Maybe the springs are too heavy for them. We can easily sort that out. Or maybe they've just never been in feet in straps before. Now, the easiest thing that you can do is you can move over to them, just tell them to press the legs nice and straight, and you can just guide their legs down with your arm into a position where they feel comfortable and in control. Now, that position will feel different for everybody, so I can't necessarily say, oh, it's a 45-degree angle, it's a 30-degree angle. It is wherever they feel confident, and you will see that confidence in their face if you guide them into this position. So we're just going to find a nice starting position before we begin. We're going to do lowering and lifting of the legs. So at this moment in time, maybe my legs are as low as I need them to go. So I'm just going to take a little breath, exhale, and I'm just going to see if I can maybe lift my legs a little. And I want to make sure that the butt cheeks are not lifting up, that the legs are just moving because I'm moving them rather than the reformer pulling them. And we're just going to reach long into the straps, and I'm going to start doing some flexing and some movement in this way. It's a nice sort of movement. I'm getting comfortable and confident with the reformer and having my legs in the straps. I don't feel like the reformer is pulling me around. I'm going to take this lowering and lifting, and I'm going to begin doing some little froggies. So we're going to go into external rotation. You can do a few lowers and lifts in external rotation. So of course, rotating from the thigh, heels stay together, back is still pressed flat onto that carriage. I'm just going to bend the knees, and then I'm going to kick those knees out into what we call our froggies. So my heels stay connected at all times. And I'm just going to press out and press in. I'm now going to do some froggies wide. So froggies wide are about, I'm in, my heels are touching. When I kick my legs out, I'm going to kick them out wide. When I return my legs, I'm going to bring the heels back together And then I'm going to come back to my start position. So off we go, out, heels together, wide, pressing flat down into that reformer carriage the whole time. Press, wide. We're going to just do one more of those. Kick and wide, making sure that the spine and the pelvis are stable and pressed tight into the carriage. So leg circles. Now your clients will want to go really wide with these circles, but where we're going to start is we're going to start with opening the legs just as wide as the reformer. Or as, you know, we kind of go sometimes shoulder, because we've also got the shoulder blocks helping to guide us. We're just going to sweep the legs around in a semicircle motion, bringing them back and together. So this is where we start. We can, of course, as skill levels and strength grow, we can make this more challenging, but we want the pelvis to be stable. So I'm potentially just going to ask them to keep hands on the pelvis. Can they feel if one side is rocking around? And then just reducing the range of movement as is needed. We can, of course, turn these circles into like turn out. So we can go round, bringing them back together. We can do like a real long range circle, depending on how the hamstrings feel. So not necessarily like the wider the circle, the better. Sometimes that smaller circle needs much more control, and considering that's why we're here to do Pilates, then control is what we're chasing. We can, of course, then do circles in the opposite direction, so we just lower. Again, you can do it parallel, just nice and small, really reminding the client that we are looking for something that is round, using whatever you wish. So it could be a teacup, a saucer, a dish. I've gone into the turnout, so we're just going to rotate round. You should be reaching long into these straps, and it should be well controlled. So you will sometimes see like 50 pences where one leg is all around. I would just suggest to that client just to go a little bit smaller and really think about the roundness of the circle. Now, I don't want my legs to lower too much so my spine arches up and off. And I often say, just pop your hand there. When you feel your body pressing against your hand, your legs are too low. So that's why we do the up and down legs thing, the lowering and lifting, so we can find that position. Now, explaining to clients what short spine is, using your hand to talk about making the spine into a C shape to shorten the spine so it actually lengthens out through thoracic. It's quite an interesting concept. You might need to jump on and demonstrate this, but I'll just walk you through. So to begin with, they might need their hands. We're just going to see if we can do gentle hip lifts off the reformer carriage. So just gently lifting your hips off that reformer carriage. The lighter the springs, the more challenging this move is, okay? So just bearing that in mind. The lighter the springs, the more challenging it is. I'm then going to walk you through the next stage. So I usually say, if you can get your cheeks off the reformer carriage, that's great. Can you then maybe use your hands to help guide your cheeks even further? Legs are heading towards the back wall, up and over. I then want you to sit down a little bit. So I'm just going to curl my spine even more. How do I get out of this? Thinking about the froggies, I'm going to bring my heels close to my face. Knees are open. I've got to use these feet to press down. I want to curl like a little ball and then press out through the legs. And then we're in again. So that would be how I get people to start. So we just do hip lift first. We do hip lift push. And then we take it over. And then using our little froggies to press, and out we go. So if we don't need all of that, we just take our time, really slow and controlled. And then we have one more nice little lift, Beautiful, press and then down. Getting your clients out of feet and straps. Even if someone has been coming for years, I always guide them through coming out of feet and straps so we don't get into bad habits. What you do not want is people just hooking both feet out and hurtling back to the stopper. So I always say, we're going to come out of feet and straps. I want you just to decide which leg. So we're going to bend knees, and then we're going to use this leg. So we just take that leg out. Now, this leg needs to reach forward till it finds the football. then using this strength in this leg, straightening the leg out, and guess what? The strap becomes loose, the string becomes loose, and it's just so much easier to come off the bar. Keeping hold, and we can either put them back or we probably go into hands in strap series.